I would just like to ask you guys if you have any closing thoughts, any sort of final advice for our listeners, anyone who's a budding professional in the journalism field or just interested in journalism.
Yeah, I think my biggest piece of advice for, I guess specifically Ithaca College students, would be to consume as much local news as possible. Totally unbiased there. But also know the people who are, important in the community. Know who the mayor is. Know the city alderpersons. I think it's really important to know your local elected officials. Not that you have to go to every city council meeting every single week. But yeah, one of the things I remember about my first intro to journalism class is my teacher asking who the mayor of the city of Ithaca was, and no one had an answer. So I think it's really important just to know about those things. Obviously, there's a lot of time constraints as a student. You have a lot of homework and things like that, and you might not necessarily want to read news articles in your free time. But especially if you're looking to get into journalism, especially local journalism, it's really important to know the important people.
My advice is going to sound really corny, but I can be a very corny person. My advice is do not give up, even if you're not getting the jobs that you want. When I took a break from working in local journalism, it wasn't necessarily because I wanted a break. And I came here to work at Ithaca College, which was a great experience and gave me a lot of opportunities to go back and get a marketing certificate. And I didn't stop trying to do things in my quote-unquote downtime. I started writing a Substack. I made a podcast. Don't go listen to it. And I started a YouTube channel. I was just trying to do something to keep my skills up, even if it wasn't working directly in the local news scene. So just don't give up. Something has to come of all the hard work that you put in, even if it doesn't feel like something's going to, something will. Yeah.
I love that. Well, thank you both, Maddie and Mac, for being here on this evening. I think this was a great discussion. I think we learned some really interesting stuff about the industry. So thank you both, and thank you all for being here.
Thanks for having us.
What we like to talk about, one of the big themes of this show is the nonlinear career path, that it's never just going to go the way that you maybe imagine it's going to. And also that industries change a lot. And I think you highlighted that excellently. I think you've experienced that firsthand quite a bit. I mean, being one of the early Vine people that's a big deal. Nowadays, parkies are being told social media is the future. Get on social media.
It's so crazy. It's so crazy. We were all at humble brag. LA Weekly called us the Viners of the Year. Me and Garrett. Because we used to do a bunch of late night, kind of like Portlandia weird stuff. Feel free to Google it. You'll find it. It's very silly. But yeah, it was such a weird time. It felt like the Wild West. And then in the same instance, going from more linear TV to the streaming services, I was at Disney as they transitioned from they had Disney XD and Disney Channel and ABC, and now it's Disney Plus. And we were all like, what is Disney Plus? It felt like the Wild West, and we were all like, what's the tone of it? What are we doing? How does it work? I think we're still kind of figuring that out sometimes. But yeah, it's a very different landscape. And I'll say also in the offshoot of I have had this Disney path, but once that door had opened, I then was able to do some freelance stuff, and I worked on DC Superhero Girls at Cartoon Network. I got to do some Kid Cosmic episodes on Netflix, and then Amazon Prime's. And so he had known me through DuckTales records that he put me up to do a freelance episode, and that's how that happened.
Wow,
so it's it's all kind of a lot of it once you're in and you connect, it's a lot of who's doing what and what relationship do you have and is there an opportunity.
I love that. And I love that you mentioned a golden handcuffs job. I think that's such a great line for that. I think I've
had a few.
Yeah. And I think a lot of students don't think about that. You just think about, I need to get a job, not is it a job that I actually want to do?
Of course. I will say when I was interning on the West Wing, again, I don't mean to, it sounds like I'm trying to drop names or something, but when I was interning on the West Wing, I used to talk to everyone I could on set just to figure out what their story was. And a lot of people want to go after the directors, they want to talk to the actors, they want to talk to the writers, and they were a lot more protected. So I had more access to the first AD, the script coordinator, and they were thrilled to have somebody ask what they did. they were thrilled when I wanted to go to like see a casting session or see an editing session and get to talk to the editor doesn't get to talk to anybody, you know? So me being there, it was like this crazy wealth of knowledge. And one of the themes, again, I noticed, especially within crews, anyone that I talked to, whether it was a grip or a best boy or the lighting guys or the camera guys, it was like, well, I wanted to direct, and then I got into the union, and the money was pretty good, and then I had kids, and it's good enough. And I was like, okay, like, and as I'm getting older, I'm now kind of aware of like stability really is a lot more interesting or attractive to me than like the glitz and glamour of maybe like a pop culture thing. Like, because I've had friends be a part, and I've had friends be on big shows and win big awards, and it's always the grass is greener. There's always some kind of cost. Not that
Yeah.
it's bad. I don't want to seem like that kind of stuff is bad, but it's like sometimes I have a good friend of mine, and she was on really big shows, like TV royalty kind of shows, and we're good friends. We met when we were assistants, and she's worked her way up to being like a big TV person. And I'd be talking about stuff I was getting to do in animation where the money's not as good as WGA, and I've always kind of wanted to get back for the money, but the people are good and the work I'm doing is good. And there's kind of this silent rule as you get into it that like you have three things: either the money is good, the people are good, or the thing is good. You're never gonna really get all three. If you do, that's like a unicorn. You need two out of the three to like be happy. Because if it's just good money, it's not gonna be enough. And I was getting experiences getting paid less in animation that she was like, you know what, I would die for that. Like so it's you never quite know. You never
Mhm.
quite know.
100%. I love
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Take it back a little bit. I know you
Mhm.
mentioned ICLA. This
Yes.
would be a bit of a two-part question. I'd love to hear a little bit about some skills that you still use today that you might have picked up during your time as a student at IC, and then also
Yeah.
some skills that you maybe had to pick up through trial by fire after
Yeah.
college, just entering the industry.
Yeah. I will say I also kind of started at IC. I kind of applied a little late. And so I applied to the park school, but I didn't get in. And I was still trying to dabble if I wanted to do any performance stuff. So I was like thinking I would maybe try to be a performing arts person. And then I was like, actually, I think I want to learn how to make TV because it felt like a more tangible skill set. Quite frankly, I was like, I don't really want to leave with debt and be like, well, I hope I become a star, Not that, again, that's just the way my brain thought about it. That doesn't mean anybody that's in performing arts that that's the only options. Um, but that's the way my brain was thinking about it. And I got into the exploratory program. I don't know if that's what it's still called. It is.
This is just recently in the past like 2 years changed to pathways, but it's the
Okay. So it's the same. And what was great about it was I got first pick at classes, and I knew I wanted to get into the park school, so I took a bunch of park classes. Hilariously, years later, when I had made that my major, I couldn't get in without an override from the teacher. But I went to that Ithaca. I knew that they had a student-run TV program, and that was so cool to me. And I like a lot of like tangible learning. There's only so much I can get from book learning. Like you have to kind of get in there and make the mistakes and see how it actually applies. And I think Ithaca has a really good reputation of having that in the industry in general. Um, so I went to that, and not the like, I don't know if it was maybe some kind of like a showcase night or presentation. It was almost like a version of upfronts of like, here's the shows that we have. And then the showrunner, like students, would be at tables with applications. And I was a freshman, not even in the park school. And I was like, okay, I have no real skill set except for my wits about me. So I just wrote like silly things. I just leaned into like my comedy and just wrote silly stuff on the applications. I got on four shows. I got on, I don't know if Frequency's still a thing. Frequency was like the MTV video music thing. So I was
Mhm.
like a virtual video DJ person. So I was like a host for that. I got on I think I had to audition also though, for the improv, like Whose Line Is It Anyway show. I forget what that was called. Um, there was I actually got a producing spot. on Trailer Park, which used to do like they would just like air trailers. And they trusted me. I don't know why to like do field stuff. So I was kind of doing like a Daily Show segment piece for them. And I would just do like movie parodies with like a recorder on campus. Like I did like 4 of them or something. So that was insane. And I got also on another one that was kind of more improv forward. That was like a Curb Your Enthusiasm, but shot instead of instead of a multi-camera, it was like in the field. And I was a performer on that as well. So I just got to be, my only skill set I had to offer was trying to be funny. And then once I was able to kind of lean into that and then get the experience of what they needed, that then qualified me to be like, oh, I could produce this, or oh, I could figure this out. I did so many of those that I think by what year was it? I got in like the Park School area. And then by the time I transferred over, I applied and I got my own show. Like that was kind of like a Weekend Update meets entertainment news. So I had like people that did news for movies, TV, music, stuff like that. But it was delivered in like a comedy kind of concept. And that was a lot of trial by fire because we did live shows that were not good. And then I did some recorded shows that allowed me to like help fix the pace and put better graphics up and learn that. So yeah, a lot of it was just like I had an improv background that I knew I could lean in that could open the door. And once that door opened, I was then able to like grow skill sets and figure out how to do it. And I was also the like director that would call the takes for that show too. But I was kind of a head writer. Like there's a lot of trails as I look back of like, oh, I was kind of being a writer and a story editor, but I just didn't have the title because I was just thinking I was producing. I wasn't really thinking that I was writing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then I kind of ran through that stuff at the Park School, and then I took the Notorious Ben Crane's documentary course. And that was wild. I'm sure it's still of legend where you're
Well, to close us out, I think you've shared a ton of really, really helpful advice and really helpful experience that our listeners can really pull from. But if you have any sort of final tips, advice, it doesn't even have to particularly be about the industry. It can be more about life in general. Anything you'd like to share, please.
Yeah, the first thing I'll just share is creative doesn't need to be perfect to be meaningful. And I think that's like so important to remember as you start your career and as you're creating. Sometimes your taste level is going to be better than the actual work you produce. And that's okay. And that doesn't mean that the work you produce isn't good, because if it's fulfilling a need and connecting with people in a certain way or making fans react, getting those likes, getting those shares, even if the creative might not be that good, the purpose behind the creative is the most important thing. So I would say, give yourself a break sometimes when you create something or you're forced to create something that's not exactly what you want it to be. Especially as a producer, you have to let that go and realize the bigger picture of the purpose of what you're creating and whether it will fulfill any of those goals. And then the last thing I just have to do, I'm working on a musical because creating during your free time is super important. So that's like the other thing. I'm just going to reiterate it, like create as much as you can, create stories, create moments, create videos, whatever it is that like makes you excited is what's going to like continue feeding your creative juices and allow you to be like really proud and happy with what you're accomplishing.
I love that. Yeah, that's awesome. Man, you are like a creative machine. That's so cool. But that's exactly what you have to do, it sounds like. If you really want to be that, if you want to spend your time creating, spend your time creating. Go out and
Yeah.
well, thank
You
you.
never know. Like you never know with what the next door is that's going to open is. So the more you're prepared for that, the better you can deal with it.
Exactly. No, I mean, I think that's really great, especially because there's so many, especially here at Ithaca within the Park School, there's a lot of people who are into sort of creative things and they might not even know exactly what they want to do. They just know that they want to create something. So I think that
Yeah.
will really ring true.
Yeah, definitely just go with the flow of life sometimes because you don't know what the next chapter is going to be. And you just have to pivot as much as you can. But just like hold on to my biggest advice would be like hold on to the spark. Like make sure what you're doing excites you still and as you can see, like reading the scripts, watching the shows, getting into the strategy has like really been exciting for me. And when you find that thing, it can be really rewarding to like look back 20 years later and be like, I actually created a career in this. And like, it wasn't just like something I thought could happen, like, it actually happened. So,
I love that. Well, thank you so much for taking some time to speak with me today, Samantha. I think this was a really great conversation. And I think our listeners are really going to enjoy hearing about your experience, your process, and yeah, everyone get out there and create something if you're listening. Absolutely. And that kind of brings me into my closing question here, which concerns a quote I found from you elsewhere within the Ithaca universe, where you were telling students to maximize their joy portfolio. And I just thought that was a fantastic quote.
I
I'd love
love
for you to
that.
talk about that a little bit more.
I'm stoked that you brought that up. I think when we think about what's our why, and I think that that's one of the things I posed that question in class the other day about why are we here in this class learning and what are you going to walk away from that? And when you think about your why, it can be sort of extended into multiple different areas with your what's your why in academia, what's your why in your profession, what's your why in life, and elements of that is finding things that bring happiness and joy to you in the different hats that you wear at different points in times. And I think that a lot of us live for macro joy events. I cannot wait for spring break. I just have to make it 2 more weeks and then it's not going to be 25 degrees outside and it's going to be amazing, right? So we think about these monumental points in times through this 365 days in a year, whether that be holidays or birthdays or the weekend, right? So we live for these bigger events, but we also have to live for those sort of micro joys. And so finding the things that bring happiness and joy on a more regular, more consistent time frame is a way that you can try to diversify your joy portfolio. And I think that for me, there's a lot of things that bring me happiness and joy. I tell my students teaching is one of my favorite parts of the day. So like twice a week, I get an opportunity to walk into the classroom. That's super awesome. When the weather's nice, quote unquote, going out and hiking and enjoying the beauty that Ithaca has to offer is something that brings me happiness and joy. But if I were only going to silo one of those elements, it really sort of pigeonholes my opportunity to experience and take satisfaction in the amazing opportunities that either this campus or that this life allows for us to have. And so I think thinking about the things that bring you to happiness and joy, and as you're pursuing a profession, trying to see how can happiness and joy be integrated into that profession have been really valuable for me. And so when they talk about if you enjoy what you do, you don't work a day in your life. I leave here some nights at like 8 p.m. after getting here at 8 a.m. and I'm still super stoked to come back the next day. I think that that is something that we, as we're trying to navigate these 4 years of our Ithaca College experience, should try to strive for.
Absolutely. That is wonderful advice. I love that. Thank you so much for being here and
Yeah, of
sharing
course.
great advice. I think this is really great. If you have any closing advice you'd like to share, feel free.
I think I think that if I had to go back to my younger self and think about where I was when I was 18 years old, living in Talcott, trying to figure out where is this profession going to take me? Understanding that there's going to be elements of failure along the way and elements of vulnerability that's going to be sort of integrated throughout that either academic experience or professional experience, and embracing both of those and trying to find the learning experiences associated with that. I think of the majority of the individuals that go into the health professions being a little bit grade oriented. And so as soon as you see a score that's not in like the 80s or 90s, we get this anxiety. And how am I going to be successful and how am I going to treat patients? But embracing failure and using it as a learning opportunity. I know it's kind of cliche, but I fail on a daily basis with patients. And I will continue to fail. I'll fail next week with patients. And that failure can look in a variety of different ways, whether that be them not getting as strong as they want or still having symptoms after I perceive that this is going to be helpful. I think it's just using that as a learning experience and truly trying to learn from that is super valuable. So I would say as you navigate this sort of career path, which has a lot of uncertainty within it, understand that there will be failures and setbacks along the way, but that does not necessarily mean it's going to be the end of the road. It potentially just opens up a door to a new beginning.
Absolutely. I love that. Yeah, I mean, we're the Career Corner podcast. We talk about failure and your reaction to it all the time, and I think that's fantastic advice.
Awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you've already covered a lot of fantastic advice that I know has been it's helpful to me to hear. I'm sure our listeners will take a lot away from it. But I'd love to close this out if you have any other sort of closing remarks or advice to give sort of you current young professionals looking to break into creative industries. If you've got
I think, wow. I think find the thing that lights you up the most and follow that path. Like if you can find the thing that you can't stop doing, then you have started on the right journey. And I'll give you an anecdotal piece of advice. A couple of years ago, I was talking to an executive creative director who worked at Meta, and he was doing the interviewing for the internships. And he said to me, one of the questions I always ask is, what do you do with your free time? And the reason why he asked that is because the people who are passionate about the thing that they do it all the time. So writers write, photographers photograph, art directors art direct or draw or whatever it is, painters paint, filmmakers make film. And if you have aligned yourself with the thing that you ultimately just inherently love and you can't get enough of, you are 10 times further along than a lot of other people who are just sort of floundering around. So keep doing the thing that you love. That's my advice.
Absolutely. That's great. Well, to close us out, I'd love to hear two things. One, what your next steps are, where you're headed next, and two, just any other sort of advice that you might have for current students who would like to foray into the industry.
Yeah. So I recently accepted an offer to be a production assistant at Fox Weather. So in a very short 2 weeks, I'm moving to New York City, which is crazy. But we'll figure it out. I don't have a place to live yet, but you know, you gotta do what you gotta do. But I'm so, so excited for that. I mean, I'm just so happy to have a full-time role soon after graduation in a big city for such a big, well-known company. And the role of a production assistant, especially in this job, seems really versatile. And like I'll get to do a lot of different things and I'll get to be in the control room when they're having their live show and everything. And I'm really excited for that and to see where that takes me, I guess. I would say for people in school, like I said earlier, like say yes to everything, try everything, and make the most of it. Like they're really not lying when they say that it goes by in the blink of an eye. Like I cannot believe I am done school. So try everything that you can. You might feel overwhelmed and busy in the moment, but in the long run, like it's so worth it. And like I said, with the safety net of being in school, like at the end of the day, you're doing all of this for your own education and to figure out what you like and what you don't like before there are like, I don't know, real world consequences. So I don't know. I would just say make the most of it and maybe try something you don't think you would have tried. Step out of your comfort zone because it's like you're literally like in the perfect place to do that for these 4 years, and you never know what's going to happen afterwards and what opportunities you may or may not get after that. So, yeah, say yes to everything and try everything and be as helpful and kind and versatile as you can.
Yeah,